All right, Clement, thank you so much for jumping on this call. You and I go back a few years now. I believe we've been working together for, I would say, maybe 2 to 3 years. You're a man of many talents. You speak multiple languages. You are a man, a master of all trades, I would say. You're an Amazon PPC expert. You're a what's the word? Fire brigade? What's the
Yeah,
word?
firefighter.
Firefighter, that's the one. Firefighter. And rumor has it you can walk on water. I'm not so sure about that one. But
Yeah, I'm gonna leave this as a rumor just to build on the, mysterious way.
yeah, anyway, you're a really good friend and I'm glad you've been able to jump on. Let's just start from the beginning. I know you've been doing many things over the years, but how did you get started with Amazon in the first place?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the very generous introduction. Half of what you said is true about friendship and how long we've been working together. The rest is just good enough. So, yeah, I've been in the Amazon space since 2016. I started with the customer service side because of the multiple language. So that's just three languages. But in Europe, it's, we have five marketplaces, originally five marketplaces, much more now. And I speak English, French, and Spanish. So that was useful. I quickly pivoted to PPC by the end of 2016, and I didn't stop because I fell in love with it. It's the complexity, the challenges. It's really stimulating. And I started my career as a freelancer. I joined agencies, and now I join Adbadger, and I've been with them for more than a year now. So yeah, fun
Yeah,
ride.
sure. No, and PPC is very complex. And I'm going to just dive straight into this because I'm sure there are people listening who don't know anything about PPC, and there are those who want to know what's going on with PPC. Now, PPC obviously stands for pay per click. And with Amazon, they have their own advertising console, their own campaign management. And of course, you've got Google, Facebook, and all the other major platforms, they have their own advertising as well. Now, I guess the parallel between Google and Amazon is that both of them are pay per click. You only pay when someone clicks on an ad, whereas with Facebook, some of the other ones, you pay per impression, right? The CPMs. So now let's just dive straight into Amazon PPC. You've done Google PPC before, and now you're doing Amazon PPC. What would you say is the major difference between both
Hmm.
platforms?
That's an interesting question. Just to go back on your comment, Amazon does have a VCPM campaigns with the sponsored display. I don't recommend running them just because they are messing the waters. People seeing the impression, the sales would be attributed to that campaign, and it can be duplicated. So it's usually you have very low ACOSs and people just start running those and they say, yeah, it's very profitable, but it's just not true. So be careful with that. Okay, now back to your question. There are a lot of bridges that can be built between Google PPC, Google Ads, and Amazon PPC. Like you said, the pay-per-click, it's the same cost model. But fundamental differences is that within Amazon PPC, your goals can be different. You're going to have direct sales impact, like your PPCs are generating sales, but you also want to boost your organic rank by leveraging the extra traffic that you're sending through these Amazon's PPC ads. You also have these defensive campaigns that you want to run to protect your branded keywords, to protect your position. And again, the goals are not just simple sales or lead generation. You don't have that with Amazon. But yeah, apart from that, you have different types of placements that you don't have on Google's, different ad types that are also present on Google. This would be the main points, I believe, and worth mentioning. Yeah.
No, and I'm glad you mentioned the fact that with Amazon, this is something people don't really appreciate, that you're not simply using PPC to drive sales. Because when someone starts selling on Amazon, they want to make sales, they want to make money. That's their primary driver. But what they don't appreciate, and it takes, a quantum leap in your understanding that Amazon, if you're simply thinking about sales and you're not thinking about the organic tailwind effect, then you're not playing the game properly. Because if all your sales are coming purely from PPC, then your margins are going to get hit massively, right? Your tax costs will not be healthy enough to enjoy any kind of decent, profitable margin. But you're thinking about really, you're using PPC to drive organic rank, and your profitable sales will come via your organic sales, not necessarily making a profit with your PPC sales. If you do, that's a bonus, right? That's something that you can celebrate and enjoy, but you're not really thinking about turning a profit via your advertised sales.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
fair comment.
So,
If I may jump in here, a good heuristic is that if your PPC sales are at break even, then you're good, and you're building that credibility through increasing the amount of reviews and the organic rank that you're building as well through sending those right signal to Amazon. That's the game.
yeah, sure. And just going back to what you said earlier about the CPMs with Amazon and how people see a very low ACOS, get really excited about that and think that the sales are being attributed to those campaigns, and then they plow more ad dollars to that. Because I was thinking about that with our own brands, because we sell on Amazon, we also sell on Shopify, and we drive our own traffic via Facebook mainly and Google. And we use a tool called Triple Whale that gives us first party attribution data, and it tells us where exactly the sales are coming from. Now, just to kind of summarize, if you look at some of the data in our Triple Whale dashboard, we see, for example, that the ROAS, the return on ad spend on Facebook, is a lot lower than the ROAS on Google. So on Google, it might be a 3 or a 4x ROAS, and on Facebook, it might be a 1.6, 1.4. And if you were to look at that in isolation, you might think, I'm going to put more of my ad dollars into Google because Google is performing better. But that's missing a very, very key point, because if you're looking at it just from a very, very surface level, you're not seeing the full picture, because Google is actually picking up the customers who first interacted with your brand on Facebook. And if you look at all of the touch points that a customer had until they converted via a Google ad, is they first saw our ad on Facebook, then they saw another ad on Facebook, and so forth. And then maybe after 10 or 15 touch points, eventually Google did the last bit of work, the last click, and it gets all the credit. One thing that people don't appreciate, that you have to think in systems. Like we think in systems when it comes to our body. We have the circulatory system, the respiratory system, and they all work in conjunction together. And when you're looking at ads, you have to look at them all together. Otherwise, you're going to make the wrong decision and think, oh, you know what? I'm going to take some of my ad budget from Facebook and put it into Google, and then that will actually have an adverse effect on what you're trying to achieve, which is more sales being driven. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, so whenever I run an audit or whenever I'm managing my own accounts, the people that are kind enough to trust me with their accounts, I observe things on several levels. I like to go macro, micro, back to macro, because like you said, it's important to have that holistic view and just make sure that you're not missing anything out. If you're just focusing on one specific, very targeted thing, and then you're disusing everything from what you're seeing there, you may be missing the interconnection that, let's get an ad, for example, as that specific ad as, like, it may benefit from other ad types that, maybe people are clicking for on keyword, like a sponsored product, keyword targeting ad on Amazon, and then they see your ad, but you have defensive campaigns, you're targeting your own ASIN, then people are clicking on that ad within your listing page and they end up buying that. The ad would be attributed to the final click, but then the original traffic was being driven by the first ad. So they work in conjunction, and you need to keep that in mind for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing this a lot now, because e-commerce is obviously only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But what I'm seeing is that it takes now a much longer customer journey from the first touch point to conversion. And I read somewhere it takes up to 300 touch points. I'm like, whoa. Now, I don't think it's that much, but I know, just think about the last time you bought something online. I bought a t-shirt from a brand called Cuts. They make these really cool t-shirts, but they are massively overpriced. And the first time I saw them, I'm like, there's no way I'm paying $50 for a white t-shirt. But they kept on targeting me and they were killing me with their ads. They had these really funny ads as well. And then after about maybe 2 or 3 months, I'm like, you know what? All right, I'll buy from
I'll
you.
buy it just so you can leave me alone. But
No, no,
you made a
but
very
I'm glad
valid
I did.
point. Sorry?
But I'm glad I did. Now that, I'm actually a customer and I've tried the product, now I'm much more inclined to be
An advocate. Yeah, an
an
advocate for
advocate
the
or a
brand, right? You
repeat
want to
purchaser
refer the brand.
and so forth. Exactly.
You made a very interesting point here that is something that I observed a lot. The higher the price of an item, the longer it takes for people to convert. So you hear a lot of gurus saying, yeah, your conversion should be 10%, anything below is not good. And then you have people selling those very highly priced items at $200 or something. They have a conversion that is way lower. What can they do with that? They're going to post their campaign. They should not do that, because you can do two things: increase your view back period, so you gather more data and you see that campaign, that keyword that generated 50 clicks without any sales, on the 51st click, the next click, you'll have a sale. And because you have a high margin and the item is highly priced, your ACOS will be low. So you have to be careful with that. And this t-shirt guy, they seem that they figured it out.
Yeah, they did. And just to go back to what you were saying about 50 clicks and maybe on the next click, that's when the
Mhm.
conversion happens. I think maybe that's why you're so against these automation softwares, because if you use one of these automation softwares, and we won't name any, and you put a rule that says after 10 clicks and no sales, turn off the ad or lower the bid, and you're applying that in a vacuum across all your SKUs, then as you said, it depends on the SKU, it depends on the category, on the general conversion rate for that particular market. There are so many things that you have to take into account, and you can't apply a blanket rule across everything and expect there to be, effective results, right?
Yeah. So one size fits all, it doesn't work in our businesses. You cannot really apply one process and then you're done with it, or put your ads on autopilot and then you're done with it. What would be a game changer is that if those automation would have dynamic parameters. Like, for example, I'm taking my conversion and I want to review, and I'm not saying automatically negate, but review any search term that had, let's say, twice the amount of clicks I usually convert for. So if I have a conversion of 1%, that's 100 clicks. So let's say 200 clicks for the really low priced item. If it's for the really high priced item, if it's a low priced item that have a 10% conversion, that's 10 clicks. Then anything that didn't convert for more than 20 clicks, you see that dynamic metrics that we are missing for now, or that I'm not aware about. Maybe some solution they have that, but anyway, I would always want to go through that manual process. Now, I'm using some tools that have this kind of filters that I can change, and I will review the search terms and manually select those that I want to negate, manually take action on them. So I'm speeding things up by leveraging those filters. I really enjoy using tools that are storing the data. On Amazon, they allow us to have that 65-day look back window, and that's it. So you don't need a tool. You just need to save that data and be very organized. A tool helps you with that. So yeah.
No, I think being organized and having some kind of daily or weekly cadence and monthly cadence for different activities is key, because if you're just doing things on an ad hoc basis in managing your PPC campaigns, then that is no way to manage your money, because at the end of the day, you're paying Amazon, you're paying these big platforms to bring you customers. If you don't optimize on a regular, consistent basis, then obviously you're not doing your job properly. And then on the other hand, there are those, and I've seen this, they optimize too much. They might make a change. They might increase the bid. They might switch the ad around in the SKU that they want to advertise. And then within 48 hours, they might kill that because they're not seeing favorable results. And so you need to have some kind of, very, very clear cadence that works for you, and I know what I do, and it gives me the results that I'm craving. But I'm wondering, what's your weekly or daily workflow in, say, managing a campaign for a product?
Okay, that's a very broad question, but yeah,
Well,
let's try to think about it a little bit. So the different types of actions you should take, different periods. So I'd say you can set up recurring reports generation for Amazon, and like search and report, you should set it up on a monthly basis. You can automate that, and Amazon will generate that monthly report for you, and you can store it, save it, because it's going to be lost otherwise. So that's something out of your head, and then you'll review as often as you need. You can generate different types of reports on different time frames, but yeah, automate that. That's out of your head, and then save them on your hard drive on the cloud somewhere. Now,
right.
there's something that I do weekly. It's the reviewing the budget limits. So I don't want my campaigns to run out of budget. You know that when you do so, Amazon will eat the budget as fast as possible. If you run out of budget at 5 p.m., then all the rest of the day is lost on you. And it's not just you. Some competitors will run out of budget, so CPC can decline throughout the day. So you never want to run out of budget. You have a budget type that has been in beta for some time now. With Amazon, they can give you the estimate percentage of time in budget, so you can, have this kind of filters. Now, I'm not saying that you should increase your budget if you run out of budget. You can control it with your bids, and by that I mean if you're running out of budget and the performances of that campaigns are not good, decrease your bid, but let it run through the day. You can be surprised by getting cheaper clicks and potentially higher conversion.
No,
So
of
that can
course,
change that.
because you have different shoppers who shop at different times. You have those who shop early in the morning, in the afternoon, and if you're running out of budget by 4 or 5 in the afternoon, what about all the evening shoppers who could have
Exactly.
potentially seen your ad and bought your product? Do you
Yeah.
use any of Amazon's rules where if the ACOS or the ROAS is of a certain metric, you increase the budget? I tried that, but then what I found is that the attribution data doesn't kick in quickly enough to be able to accurately increase the budget, because sometimes it increases the budget or it doesn't increase it, but then it should have, but the data was like 48 hours delayed.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
So yeah, it makes sense. I'm not using that just because, again, it's in beta. This function that you're talking about, it's in beta. Doesn't seem to work very well. Like you said, there is some delay, and I'm thinking that it's because they're using their API and not the actual data that you see. So the Amazon's API has 48 to 72 hours delay in sales data. And I'm thinking that's the case. So yeah, just you'll be better off reviewing that manually. You still want your campaigns to have some breathing room. You don't want to be really tight in your budget. Like if you have $100 daily, and if you're reaching $95 over the week every day, then you probably want to increase that, even if you're not reaching that daily, just to be able to accommodate any potential increased traffic that you may be lost otherwise. That may be lost
Yeah,
otherwise. Yeah.
sure. Absolutely. And now, when it comes to Google, we all know that the ads at the top of the first page, that's what gets the click. And with Amazon, as we all know, we all want that top of search placement, because that's where, those on their phone, those who are browsing on their desktop, that's what they'll see first. And you want to get that really top first click, because they tend to lead to a conversion much more likely than the other placements, rest of search and product pages. Are there any cases where you would optimize for a placement other than top of search? Because generally, when you're launching, you want to go for top of search. Talk to me about some of the nuances about maybe the other placements and the argument that could be made for them.
Yeah, I'm just going to take the example that you just mentioned. When you're launching, you want to optimize for top of search. Now, I'm going to argue that you want to segment your keywords list in different phases, because if you're shooting for a very highly searched root keywords, you're going to compete against competitors that have high ratings. Like if they have 1,000 reviews and then you just have 10, and people are going to get the guy that has that social proof. So segmenting your keyword list into your keywords into different lists for launches can make sense. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't want to target your root keywords at the beginning. You may want to do so by being more intentional, maybe have a lower bid on them to get those different types of placements, test the water, but then that shouldn't be your launch strategy at first. Now, back on your other question, you can optimize for product pages if you are targeting ASINs and you only want to appear on product pages. That could be a strategy. You may want to protect your ASINs, for example, and you really want to occupy the space on your own product detail page. So that can be something that is working for you. And also, if you're shooting for a root keywords, for example, that is doing really well on product pages, you may create a separate campaign that would be targeting product pages placements. And in that way, you have a more holistic targeting of that root keyword. Does that make sense?
Yep. So you have separate campaigns targeting the same keyword, the root keyword, but the focus is the placement type instead of just the general see what happens and let Amazon decide.
Yes, correct. And then follow the data. Like if it works better for you on product places for whatever reason, then, don't be stubborn. Just do all that. Keep portion of your budget for experiments, just because you always want to be experimented. You always want to capture those new trends, those potentially new opportunities. But yeah, if it works for you there, go for it. And don't be afraid of duplicates. If you are intentional about duplicates, then that's fine. You can have different. You're not going to be bidding against yourself within your own account. That's something that people are missing out.
What we started doing last year was we started running these video campaigns for our major keywords. And on the first page, there are 2 placements for video in the middle and right at the bottom. And so we actually created the same campaign twice, but with different bids. And we used 2 different creatives. So they see our video in the middle, and then they scroll down, they see another video, and the video, it takes up more real estate than just a product. So even though we're targeting the same keyword, our bids are totally different. So there's no cannibalization, there's no competing with our own ASIN, and it works because you're going to get the click at the top or the rest of search placement, or you're either going to get a click off the first video or the second video, right? So you want to try and capture as much of that first page as possible, but obviously sometimes, you convert better on the second page and you convert better on the product page. So there's a lot of testing that you have to do, and there is no one size fits all. And I think that's one thing people need to appreciate, that you can't just assume, hey, this worked for this person, so it's going to work for me. No, your case is different. Your market, your product, your niche, it may have completely different preferences. So there's a lot of experimenting that's required. People need to have the appetite for that and not expect to reach their final conclusion, their final, holy grail in a matter of days. Sometimes it takes weeks or even months, right?
Yeah. And don't shut down a campaign after a week, because you know that Amazon likes consistency. They like campaigns history. And sometimes you can have CPCs that are actually lower on top of search because Amazon favors you. What does Amazon want? They want to get the money from your click, and they want to get the money from the sale because they are getting a cut on every sale. So they want both. And they also want that to have a great customer journey. They want to put ads that people will click on. They will show the customer relevant product for their searches. So that's why conversion plays a big role in that. So you have the hope to get lower CPCs as your campaign develop, and that can take some time.
That's a really powerful point, and people need to appreciate that, because you can't just think about advertising in a vacuum. This is one of the things that I think when we were working together, we were most impressed with, because I think in the interview you were asked, what would you do in this case if the ACoS was this low or that low, or whatever it was? And you said something along the lines of, well, I'd go to the product page, I'd check the images and so forth and the price point and see. Basically, you were looking at it from a very holistic perspective instead of looking at it purely, in the advertising dashboard.
PPC scope. Exactly, because, it's really hard to just explode an Amazon business like this part goes there and this is go there. No, they are just intertwined, and it's just, you need to, what I said, macro view, you don't want to be stuck into your advertising console and don't look at anything else. If you have an issue with conversion, let's take it like that. If you have an issue with CTR, what impacts the CTR? your placements, of course, but also how you are positioning yourself versus your competitors. So review counts, review average, your main image plays a big part in that, your title as well, and the price. So all these kinds of elements, maybe you can do some actions on them to increase your CTR, and then your conversion appears. That's the second part. It's on your listing page, your product detail page. Is there anything confusing about the people when they go there? You may have
Yeah,
some
yeah.
poor bullet points, or images are not great, these kind of things.
No,
Help
and
us complete all that.
that's the thing. You're talking about just one metric, the click-through rate. And in order to understand the click-through rate, you listed so many things: the
Hmm.
review rate, the review number, the main image, the title. And there are so many moving parts. And this is what people don't appreciate. Sometimes people, and I've seen this, where they pull the plug on a product, or they take a really critical decision in their business, and they are only focused on something in a very isolated, narrow
Yeah, narrow
fashion.
view.
Exactly. And to improve your click through rate, they might just think, oh, I need to change my bid because my placement isn't really high enough. No, there are so many things at play, and it's very complicated, and it's very, very difficult for someone to think about all of these unless they are being told, hey, they have some kind of checklist to work through. Because if you take a decision based on incorrect data, then you're going down a really dangerous funnel or path that could, over 3 6 months, put your business in a critical situation. So
Hmm.
that sort of expansive thinking, I think, is lacking, especially in new sellers, because all they want to do is make sales, and they don't really think about all the other moving parts that
Hmm.
might be at play here.
Yeah, for sure. And the saying garbage in, garbage out, if you put wrong data, or if you take the wrong conclusion, if you make the wrong conclusion based on what you're seeing, you don't wait enough, then you're going to take poor actions and you're going to get poor results.
No, absolutely. Now you're on the agency side, so I want to talk a bit about the sellers you work with now and you've worked
Hmm.
with in the past. You've come across a lot of sellers. I've worked with hundreds over the years. I'm working with, a fair few right now, and I'm sure you see some common denominators between those who are really successful and those who somehow don't last, who are, a flash in the pan. They come along, they last for a few months, and then they bounce.
And then they're gone. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say are some of those common denominators that you see in those really successful sellers? And by successful, I don't necessarily mean them making 6 or 7 figures per month. I mean those that really have the right mindset, who are putting the correct wheels in motion for the long-term success of their business.
Yeah, something I want to correct here is that the revenues you're making, for me, is not a measure of success, because what hides behind that is the profitability of your business. If you're letting me run a business and the goal is to make sales, I can make you an infinite amount of sales. Like this, if you're losing money on a business, it's very easy to make tons of sales. So yeah, I see a lot of people pounding their chest saying, yeah, I'm an seller figure. And well, what about your profits, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's not been a good year. And okay, fine. But so, yeah, back onto your questions. Emotion is one thing that can make or kill a business. The seller that I see passing through and then they stop, and they are being driven by emotion, and they are taking decisions on emotions, and often they are taking the wrong decision, like reacting on impulses. They see a drop in the market at some point. They say, oh, well, my product is gonna fail or something. You have that seasonality that plays a big role into it, or you have a new competitor that is being very aggressive, and you say, okay, it's gonna kill my business, so I'm just gonna stop there. Yeah, no, just endure. Resilience is dependent of poor emotion management.
Mm.
And the sellers that are really making a killing, they are resilient. They have their head on their shoulder. They really think things through. They are building brands. They are not just selling one product. You have that whole approach where you really want to build a brand around a category, a niche, adding some products that make sense, these kind of things. And they are not afraid to invest in their business to get the benefits inhalated. That doesn't mean that you can run a business with negative profits for a long time. Any launches that are profitable after a week are unicorns, very, very specific situations. So, yeah, and yeah, don't freak out. That's basically what I'm saying.
Well, you know what? Your last comment is going to make a lot of people freak out because what you're saying is don't expect to be profitable at launch.
Yeah,
And this is counterintuitive because people, in most cases, there are some very notable exceptions, but in most cases, they start Amazon to make money. And
I know.
like we launched the same brand on our own website and we launched it on Amazon. And
Mhm.
we were able to scale to six figures on our website and at a healthy margin. But with Amazon, it was a fraction of that. And our
Mm.
margin was a bit lower. And that's because with Amazon, you cannot scale exponentially. It's a very, very gradual game where you're collecting reviews, you're gaining
Mhm.
credibility, you're trying to rank in the first, 1 to 3 months. You have the long-term goal in mind because if you can secure those really good top 5, top 10 organic positions, then you're going to be rewarded over the long term massively. And
Mhm.
you will reach 6 7 figures over the long term. And but with your website, obviously you're not competing with all these other products. All you're focused on, and I say all, but it's actually very complicated, but you're bringing the traffic to your website. And so it's about, having the right goal and the right expectation from the very, very beginning. And as I said, some people, when they're told, hey, you're not going to be profitable in the first month, it might freak them out. And if they
Mhm.
have that kind of short term horizon, then I think you agree with me, then maybe Amazon isn't the right thing for them. Like,
Yeah,
if
yeah. It's not made for everyone. It's not get rich quick theme. Yeah, you need to put a lot of work into it. You need to, have the right mindset, as you said. And if you're freaking out just by that statement, then yeah, maybe that's not for you.
Yeah, well, the other day I was speaking to someone and he wanted to join our coaching program. He was ready, he wanted to sign up, but I turned him down. uh,
Okay.
I turned him down because he had recently lost his job and he had a nest egg of savings and he was going to
Hmm.
use that nest egg for the business and to join the mentorship. And I said, is that all you have? And he said, yeah, I need to make this work because I've got to pay my rent in 3 months' time. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. If that's what
Yeah,
you're thinking about, if you want to pay your rent, then you need a job, fortunately, because the best students I work with are the ones who don't need the money. If
exactly. Yeah, you did the right thing. You did him a service. Yeah.
Yeah, because the last thing I want is for someone who is so desperate to turn a profit that they end up making these really crap decisions.
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and then their business doesn't give them the results that they want, and then they end up blaming the system, or they say Amazon is fake or Amazon is a scam or whatever. But no, like, it's your mindset, it's your expectation that you brought into Amazon that really has caused your downfall.
Hmm. Yeah. 100%.
Well, Clement, it was fantastic speaking to you, brother. It was good catching up. We touched upon many points. And what I'd like to do, just to wrap up, is I'm going to throw some things at you, and you just tell me, just pick either one. All right. And then,
Okay.
sometimes it's going to be difficult to pick one, but I want you to take a clear stance. All right.
I'll
And
do my best.
we'll start off nice and easy. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
All right. Cool. Uh, Facebook or Google?
Google.
TikTok or YouTube?
YouTube. I'm a boomer. I get it. It shows, right?
Fair enough. Now, if you pick one, video campaigns or a sponsored product campaign?
And that's in general, sponsored product campaign.
Yeah, cool. Spain or France?
Spain. That's weird, right?
Don't say that too loudly, or the French people might get angry.
Oh, they're gonna go on strike.
Uh, all right, cool. And just one more to wrap up: freelancing or working for an agency?
Okay, so I'm gonna answer and I'm gonna expand a little bit because that's interesting. So now, if you had asked me that some years back, I would have said freelancing. Now I'm saying agency. Why? Because that works better for me. I like interacting with people. And I don't like all the administrative things. I like to do my thing, which is managing accounts. So people are finding, clients for me. They are managing all the boring stuff for me, like,
Yeah.
invoices and stuff like that. And I get to see a ton of new accounts. And that's where the magic comes from. Being exposed to so many events, or rather, categories, that you're really building up your own skills, your own knowledge with that exposure. So yeah, agency.
No, I think that makes sense. You're able to focus on what you actually enjoy. Obviously, I used to be a teacher, as you know, and
Yeah.
I love teaching, but I didn't love all the other bits that I had to do, all the
Mhm.
other administrative stuff, all the red tape, the school politics. When I was in the classroom, I was in my forte. I loved it. But
Yeah.
all the other stuff, even bloody marking the books and following up with parents and all that rubbish. But you're right, it makes perfect sense. If you can focus on what you truly enjoy, then
Mhm.
that's where the joy lies.
Yeah, you'll be happier and you'll be better for it.
All right, merci beaucoup,
Avec
Mr.
plaisir.
Clement. It was a great chatting with you, man, and thanks for your time, brother.
Thanks, Jamal. Enjoy that.